One, and off we go. Hi, everyone. This is Athena Paquette, and I'm with the League of Women Voters Torrance area. And today we have our weekly Learn with the League, which is a weekly program brought to you by LWVTA here in Torrance. And they are interviews with policymakers on all levels of government and the nonprofits that support them. So today my guest is Milton Herring. He's a council person with the City of Torrance. Welcome, Milton.
Thank you. Happy to be a part of
me. This is fun. So just so you guys know, as we chat here, I'll be monitoring if you have any questions. And so here we go. So Mr. Herring, I wanted to kind of start with just kind of your background, you know, your family, where you grew up, kind of some personal details and professional details before you became the famous council person.
Well, I don't know about how famous I am, but thank you. Well, I'm a native of Birmingham, Alabama. Grew up there and product of the civil rights, a baby of the civil rights era. So those are early civil rights days with, of course, Martin Luther King Jr. and the likes. Made a definitely impression upon me of how important it is to have good legislation for the rights and equality of all people. And I think that was always been somewhere in the back of my mind. But then going into the military and having a 28-year career in the military also helped to develop my interest in going into government that I am in now.
Huh. So I was reading your bio on Voters Edge, which is a league website for candidates to, you know, put their backgrounds and their, we'll say, political philosophy as they're running for office, right? So I was pretty amazed at all your accomplishments. So I was reading, yes, that you were in the military and you saw a lot of active duty, I guess, in, is it Iraq or Afghanistan, Kuwait?
Was mostly Middle East, Iraq, and Kuwait. City of Kuwait.
In the early 2000s, I guess, right?
Mid 2000s, early 2000s, and mid 2000s. Two different deployments for a year at a time.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
So besides that incredible career, after you so you moved to Los Angeles in the early 80s, I guess?
I did.
Okay.
We did. We were at the time in the Army Reserves and doing some reserve work and some work with the Department of Veteran Affairs.
And I was reading, I think that you were employed by a nonprofit to do with housing?
Yes, I was working with a nonprofit housing, senior citizen housing development corporation that was involved in developing housing for senior citizens, as well as the executive director for programs and development of those facilities. So that gave me a lot of good skills in real estate as it relates to senior citizens and developing a 501c3 and the fundings, working with the federal government to receive fundings for that.
So Department of HUD or?
Department of HUD, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Housing and Urban Development.
Which is now headed up by the fabulous Ben Carson, that we're being in the mortgage business, I'm very happy about.
Oh, absolutely.
So you became executive director eventually of that housing corporation, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then, so after that gig, what did you do after that?
Well, you know, that one was because of my interest for the elderly and working with the gerontology department and the senior citizens, and I still have an affinity for making sure that the elderly and senior citizens have not only affordable housing but good health care and access to all of the amenities within a local municipality. People are living longer and need to find ways to remain independent. So that's been always a passion of mine as well.
Okay, yeah, it seems like a lot of the things on your bio, your path has been a lot about serving others in different ways through different job vehicles, we'll call it, but all kind of in service to other people, huh?
Yes, also a community pastor and very involved in helping to make the community just better. I believe that we serve God by serving others. That's just a personal faith statement for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm,
And I've always have said that I'm not a politician, but I'm more of a public servant.
right, right. So I think I
Yeah.
was also reading that you were chaplain at the VA,
Yes, ma'am.
and that how long was that?
Oh, I did that for about 20 years.
Wow.
Not on a full-time basis, but it was serving in various capacities, working with veterans who was returning from a lot of the time was the Vietnam era, then later from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and
Mm,
that was very meaningful to me. And being in the Army Reserves, it gave me an opportunity to have experience. Uh, that when our unit was deployed on active duty, I
mm,
was serving with the active duty components both
wow.
times, and then coming back as a reservist, I was able to relate to those as a VA hospital chaplain.
Uh-huh. Wow. That you must have seen a lot of stuff doing that, being in that capacity, huh?
A lot of things, and a lot of
Yeah.
things that we're hearing about today, with increased suicide, with a lot of servicemen and women. Um,
Mm,
and as I said to people, I was able to experience the cost of freedom, and freedom is not free, but it's paid for by blood, sweat, and tears of our servicemen and women. And
mm,
so I'm honored to have been able to serve with some outstanding men and women and experience some of the things that I did experience. I consider myself very fortunate to have had that experience.
mm-hmm. And be healthy. I mean, you came out of it healthy. That's good, right?
Well, that's being healthy is a relative terms. You can say
Mm,
outwardly, I have all of my extremities, but there's always some scars and inwardly, and that's
mm,
what I'd like to help to educate the public about. That there may not be a service member may not have a missing arm or missing limb, but they may also still be dealing with some issues. Emotional,
mm,
psychological issues.
mm-hmm.
The trauma,
the things that
yes,
result from the trauma, yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so when I jokingly, but when I tried to approach you for the interview, I was like, do I call him corporal, reverend, doctor? I didn't know which title trumps which is always a big thing with the league, right? Which title trumps which? So so we got to a couple of your things, but what about the doctor part? How did this doctorate? What type of doctorate do you have, and when did that occur?
It's not a PhD, which requires a language, and that was one of the reasons I didn't pursue the PhD because I didn't want to go through another language. So this is a doctorate of ministry.
Oh,
It was a 3-year program, and so it was out of the Fuller Theological
oh,
Seminary in
uh-huh.
Pasadena, and you develop an area of interest, and my area of interest was leadership development and working with church leaders in particular,
Mm.
uh, and helping them to be more engaged and more involved in the community.
Wow, that is super cool. And so are you doing that now, or is that something you did in the past?
Well, that's something that you continue to do.
Mm,
All of this, for me, education is lifelong, and
mm,
it's an ongoing process. It's not an end, and everything just kind of dovetails into what you're doing, and even what I find what I'm doing, even in the present
mm,
with my being on the city council. Still always
mm-hmm,
involved with leaders within the city and within the community with other
mm-hmm.
different organizations.
So that learning applies to all, not coaching other leaders, but helping other people to lead.
Coaching is a good term.
Yeah.
Life coach,
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, that's kind of a
Yeah.
more relevant, current term, but something
Mhm.
along those lines.
Mhm.
A lot of
Yeah.
things like you do, Althena.
Yeah, sure. So, so that's great, because I think it's important for people to know your background, to know where you're coming from, and what assets, personal assets, you bring to the table in your leadership, right? So,
Mm.
so now I want to move a little bit to the political background. So, when was that first spark that you thought you would be in politics? I think you mentioned it earlier, but can you remember when you said, "Aha, I need to go as far as I can to serve as much as I can," or was it a certain person that ignited that? Could you remember how that all started?
I can't remember any one defining moment.
Okay.
It was something that over the years, again, growing up in the civil rights era, I know how important it was for, if you will, community pastors to be involved and engaged, like a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose ministry was not just within the four walls of the church, but his
Mm,
ministry was in the community and helping to make the community a better place in which to live.
mm,
So that's an overflow in that area. I can also remember doing some deployments in the desert of Iraq and Kuwait, and again dealing with men and women who was putting their lives on the line uh, for our freedom. A lot of them did not make it back.
mm,
And so the question came up, how can I make their lives count? And one of the things that came up into my mind was, one of the ways you can do that is continue to give and conserve even beyond your time in the military, and getting
mm,
involved in your community.
mm.
And at the time, my wife, who was also very inspiring to me, because she was on the commission. She served as a commissioner for civil service for a
Mm.
number of years, even
Oh,
before I got into the political fray,
you
the
got there
political
first.
process. She got there first. And I saw the way that she was serving, and the importance of the role of commissioners. And I said, that might be something I'd like to do when I retire from the
Mm,
military. And so I
right.
did. Yeah.
So when did you retire? When
So
did
I
you
retired.
come?
I retired in 2009 from the military, and
Okay.
then I first applied to become a commissioner. And the first time I did not get appointed.
Mm,
And the second time I applied to become a commissioner for Torrance, I was appointed in 2012 to
okay.
the Traffic Commission.
Okay. So
And so
that
I
was
was,
your first official political seat.
yes.
Okay. And
And so,
so how was that like? What is the Traffic Commission, by the way?
well, the traffic, the city of Torrance has about 12 or 13 different commissions.
Mm,
And the commissions are like the liaison between the community and the city council.
okay.
And the traffic commission deal with all of the issues dealing with all of the traffic signals, impact of traffic, trying to mitigate traffic flow throughout the city, looking
Mm,
at some creative ways we can cut down on traffic, adding bicycle lanes, the transit system.
mm,
And if residents have problems with the traffic in their community, they would come to the traffic commission. And if we couldn't resolve it, then we would take it to the city council.
okay. Wow. So that's pretty powerful, right? That's you're making a difference there for sure.
Well, you're getting involved. And one of the things that the city council members said to me when I was applying for the commission is that the most important thing that you can do is be a good listener.
Mm,
And that began to help me to develop to be a good council member, because you need to be a good listener as well.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was 2012. And how long was that term? How long do you serve on a commission typically?
Well, it's typically a 4-year assignment,
Mm-hmm.
4-year term.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2014, I ran for city council.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you'd gotten enough experience to where you felt you were ready for the next step, huh?
So I thought.
Yeah. Okay, good. So how did that go?
Well, I never said that I lost.
You're
However, I
right.
didn't win. But
Right.
I learned. I learned a lot.
Right, right.
I learned more how the political process worked, what you need to do, how to develop a campaign, um,
Mm,
what you need, how you need to engage the community,
mm-hmm.
what some of the concerns of the people in the community. So I learned
Mm.
a lot, and I was very surprised when I received over 5,000 votes.
You were surprised.
I was surprised.
Did you not know 5,000 people in the city?
I didn't know 5,000 people, and I wasn't sure if my wife was going to vote for me. Depending on what day of the week or what I had done,
Right, right.
when I would
You
get her
were
vote.
you were winning her vote, losing her vote, winning her vote, losing her
Yes.
vote. Well, good.
um,
So yeah, so in 2014, you decided to run for city. Oh, backing up. So the commissioner positions are appointed, right? You didn't have to run for an election to be a commissioner.
commissions are appointed. Yes,
Okay.
yes, they are.
Okay. So okay. So then running for city council. How long ahead did you plan to do that? What's the cost generally? I mean, what would someone expect to go through, do you think?
Well, again, the first time I ran, I waited too late, and
Oh, to jump
that
in,
was
you mean?
that was a lot of there was some lessons learned from my first time running.
Right.
I waited too late. I didn't raise enough money. I
Mm,
didn't develop a good campaign team.
mm,
Um, I didn't really have a developed message.
mm.
And so after the 2014 election, I applied for the Planning Commission,
Okay.
and I was appointed to the Planning Commission. And I served on the Planning Commission for 2 years. And the Planning Commission deals with a lot of zoning
Mm,
laws, land issues, and um, it taught me a lot again about how the city is growing. Looking at the general plans for the city, again dealing with the community when they're building, or residents when they're trying to do an add-on to their home, things like
mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Looking at blueprints and architectural designs. And so for 2 years, I just immersed myself in that. And that was a very good experience.
That would be fun to do. I mean, it would be fun for me to do.
Yes,
So
you would
that's a
be
lot of
great at
learning.
it. You
Huh?
would be great. You would be great at that.
Oh, thank you. So even the traffic, going back to the traffic commission, you probably learned a lot of stuff that you didn't really, that's not your background, right? Is traffic signals and all that.
It's not. I did again. I did a lot of studying about our traffic flow and traffic management. Uh,
Uh-huh.
what are some of the cutting edge things that a lot of cities are doing to enhance the traffic throughout the city?
Mm-hmm.
It was a very good learning experience for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So planning commission was 2012 to 14, let's say. Is that what it was? Or
That's
no,
true.
14
No,
to
that was
16.
traffic commission.
Right. So 14 to 16.
Hmm.
Okay. And so then you ran again for city council.
Yes.
So what did you do differently time number 2, since now your title has council person in it? You were successful, obviously. So what did you do differently?
And do you mind if I take like a 30-second break?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Let
go ahead. Yeah,
me
okay.
take
So
a
I can
30
talk
second
about
pause.
something.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Are you going away or? Okay, yeah, okay. So Milton had to take a break. He's for 30 seconds. And so I'll just read you some of his background so the awards that he got while he was in service just blew my mind. His awards and decorations include Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal with 3 oak leaves. We'll have to ask him one day what that means. Air Force Good Conduct Medal, Army Reserve Components Achievement Medal, National Defense Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, and the Armed Forces Reserve Medal and it says with bronze, hourglass, and M device. So I don't know quite what that means, but and Milton is very well, now he's a council person, but he was very involved in our Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation. He's a member of the American Legion and the Disabled American Veterans. He was actually president of the South Torrance Lions Club. So the man is very service oriented, which made me just blew my mind. And then I'm reading all your accomplishments while you were gone, just straight off your bio. This is just amazing. So I had a question about what is the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal? What is that?
That's the medal that you get for serving in the Iraq and Kuwait.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought, man, what were you doing exactly? Okay. So so where were we now? Okay. So you ran again for city council, and what did you do differently from the first time you ran? What were the things that you shifted? How was the experience different? Can you kind of tell us what maybe we can save some hopeful council people, candidates, some trouble in the future?
Well, again, my faith is something that has always guided me and informed me. Mm-hmm. And I think I would say that I relied more on my faith the second time around, rather than believing that this is something that I had to do all by myself. But it's something larger, it's something larger than any individual. And then having a greater cause, the why are you running, your motivation for running. Some people run and they use it as a stepping stone. They go to city council, and then they run for mayor. Then they want to run for a higher office, and it's just a stepping stone. Or are you really running? And so for me, I realized that Torrance has been such a wonderful city, and a lot of people said this, but for me and my family, it truly has been a wonderful city. Been a good place to live. All of my three sons all went through Torrance Unified School District. During my time of my military deployment, I was traveling a lot, and so I was away from my family a lot. So having a good, safe community with an excellent police department, fire department, first responders was extremely important for me. And I could go on and on. Being a self-contained community like Torrance is, again, I really wanted to give back and want to help make this community even better for future families that's coming in. And so Sue Herberts, who was the city clerk when the first time I ran for office, I went in and I had a talk with her, Sue, and I asked for her guidance. If somebody wanted to get involved, what are some things that you would suggest? And Sue was very, very helpful, very good. And she recommended some things for me, recommended that I get involved in some local organizations, recommended that I do some what they call the grassroots academy leadership training that they had at the time with the chambers, commerce, city chambers. And I took her advice, and I got involved in some local organizations, start serving, let people know about me, get to know me, going to different events and activities, and talking with people, learning.
Yeah, so you jumped into serving in a bigger way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
So what exactly does a council person do? Are you actually paying payroll and running things over there? What exactly do you do? I know there's council meetings, so we know that. Once a week you guys get together, and so what else? Let's start there.
Once a week we get together, except when we have a dark night, we go dark. But the city council members are primarily responsible for a variety of duties related to local government. And we're the local legislative body Torrance is a chartered city, which simply means that we have a city council and a city manager. The city council is responsible for hiring two individuals, and that is the city manager and the city attorney.
Oh.
And then the city manager hires the other staff. So when it comes to establishing zoning laws, developing local ordinances, the city council does that. We have an agenda. The city manager, if it's anything under $5,000, he has the authority to make that approval. Anything more than $5,000 needs to come before the city council.
Wow. So that's a lot of budget spending decisions that you guys are in charge of.
We have to, Torrance is very fortunate to have a balanced budget. We have an operation budget of over $300 million.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
We have to, we have the different sources, the sales tax, property tax, utility usage tax that monies come from. And so we're always looking for ways to generate funds for our city and to live within our means. But we just finished a contract negotiation, for example, with the Torrance Police Officers Association and the Torrance Firefighters Association. Now we're in contract with the other city employees. And of course, everybody wants to make more money. And understandably.
Yep.
But you have to balance. It's a balance. Yeah.
So would you say money governance is the biggest part of the job, or do you think policy what I mean, there's a lot of things you do, I think, right? So what would you say takes up the most of your time, or what's the heaviest subject, or however you want to say that?
It really depends. It varies at different times of the year.
Okay.
Like I said, we have to have the budget approved by the end of May. Our fiscal year ends end of June, and then we go from there. We're generally in contract negotiations, or we have other what we call capital projects. You have your short range, long term capital projects. For example, we just had the groundbreaking for our new regional transit system center that we have broken ground for. But in order to get to that point, we had to make sure the funding was secure. It's about an $18 million operation.
Oh, wow.
And we had to get funding from different federal, state grants and
so how long, for example, that project, how long from the spark of an idea to today, how long was the process to do that? Do you know?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I do know. And it was 10 years.
Wow.
It was 10.
From the time they say this sounds like a good idea, or we need this, or whatever.
Yes.
To the point, and so the researching where to get the money and where it's going to be and all that kind of stuff. Right?
And all of that. Yes.
Wow.
Getting the land for it, doing a financial feasibility analysis, soil tests, all of that, going through the different, again, zoning laws, working with the state funds, federal funds, having a good relationship with Congress members and saying that, hey, we need more dollars from the federal government and, of course, our state assembly people, and we need more money from the state for this, and selling the idea. So yeah, it was because, and I know that because when we had the recent celebration earlier, at the end of May, one of the former assistant city manager, Mary G. O'Donnell, was there. She had retired last year, I believe. But she was talking about how she started working on the project in 2008.
Wow.
And so
wow.
it was, he was celebrating.
So this comes to mind that it seems like also as a council person, you inherit the flow of business or decisions that came before you, right? So you
Yeah.
step into the seat and it's like you're halfway through the movie or whatever, right? So what's that experience like? Do you find that tough, or is it not so bad? Like, how is that dynamic?
That's a very good dynamic, and it's interesting because when you're campaigning, you have a lot of question that comes up on like during the forums as the League of Women. You ask a
Mm-hmm.
candidate, well, how do you feel about this, and how do you feel about that, or what would you do with this if you
Mm-hmm.
get elected? People would ask one of the questions, well, what is one of the first things you're going to do as an elected council member? And
Mm-hmm.
you say that you're going to do something, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality of it is it takes seven other people. You have seven other people that you have to work with, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, there's something already in the pipeline, so to speak, that
Right.
other councils have approved that you need
Yeah.
to now manage the flow
Right.
of. And
Yeah. And you can't just blow up the bridge and say, well, that was that guy. Now I'm here. Right.
right.
That's probably not a good idea, right?
Right. And then
Wow. Okay.
the other thing it causes me to do is to realize that my time is short. My responsibility now, I'm a torch bearer. Uh, I received the torch from someone else, and from an outstanding council member who endorsed me, Council Member Gene Barnett,
Mm.
who endorsed me, and he termed out after 8 years. But I talked with him, I sat with him, I picked his brains, and now I see myself as carrying the torch. But then
Mm.
I'm gonna have to soon. I'll be passing the torch to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So you're up for re-election in 2020 then? Is that what it is?
2020, yes.
Okay. Okay. But you might get re-elected another term, so, may not
Who
be
knows?
time to pass the torch yet. Okay. Um, yeah, so in your council person's life, you were mentioning earlier about other levels of government. So are you actually also kind of like a salesperson to other government agencies for the city? Like, is it just the mayor that goes around trying to convince people, or do all the council people have a responsibility to go and get contracts, or, try and get a lead on how to improve the city in some way, or maybe go and schmooze the assembly people or the state level policymakers? How does that work? Are you a salesperson, Mr. Herring?
Absolutely. I'm selling, and our product is the city of Torrance. And
Mm-hmm.
we all have our different niches, so to speak. We all
Yeah.
have different contacts, and so we're all out there. All of the council members are out there trying to influence developers to come and develop businesses to come and locate uh, locate in our city. Um, but of course, the mayor, he gets the as we say, he gets all the credit
Yeah.
when something goes well, and of course, when it doesn't go well, he gets all the blames.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. He's like what do they call that? The iron rod, or the thing
yeah,
that pulls in the lightning. What do they call that? So,
yeah.
um, yeah. So I was going to ask you something else along those lines too now. Oh, so we kind of skipped over this. And so what do you guys make being on council? Some people make 100 grand sitting on their city council.
And
City of Torrance pays that well, or no?
no, I need to find where that city is, and I need to relocate.
Yeah, I think,
uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn that when I first got involved, that don't look for this as a way to make money. The,
Uh-huh.
the stipend. Well, as a commissioner, let me put it in context.
Okay, sure.
All the commissions make a whopping stipend of $10 a month.
$10 a month. Wow.
And then so council members, we get a pay increase of $100 a month.
Wow, that's 10 times more.
Yeah. So again, to put it in context, it's all relative.
Right, right. And do they pay for you to travel? Do they,
They,
I mean, is there some kind of reimbursement for your car? I mean, that you can't be out all this money, I would think.
you do get travel expense, and you
Okay.
do get a car allowance.
Oh, okay.
I must
So
say
you're
that.
not burning through all your own property to do this.
That's true. Yeah, yes, that's true.
Good, good. So to give people an idea, how many people are in Torrance? What's our citizenry right now, approximately?
Approximately, we're 148,000,
Okay.
and but that number swells during the daytime with people coming here for different jobs that
Oh,
work in the city.
but
We're
don't live here. Got it.
Yeah, people who don't live. So we're about 250 in the daytime, but
Mm-hmm.
our residents, we have about 148,000 residents in the city of
So is
Torrance.
that a small city or a large city? Where do we fall in like the that kind of categorization?
Well,
In the
and
US, I mean, like, yeah, in
yeah,
the US, are we small, big?
for the Los Angeles County, we're about the eighth largest city in Los
Okay.
Angeles County. And in the grand scheme of things nationally, we're somewhere between a mid-sized to a small city. But
Okay.
uh,
Okay. That's good to know. So do you serve, does a council person serve all the people, some of the people? Are you in zones? How does that work? Because that's a lot of people, 150,000 people that can contact you at any moment.
at any moment, and when you're campaigning, you're
Mm-hmm.
walking. It's 21 square miles of the city, and you're walking all knocking on doors all throughout the city. What
Uh-huh.
what we just have gone through is a move from an at-large election to uh, vote by district.
Okay. And what does that mean for people who don't know? What does that mean?
Well, it means that starting in 2020, Torrance is going to be divided into six districts,
Okay.
and each district will have its own council member,
Oh,
with the mayor being at large.
okay.
So after 2020, as opposed to having to knock on all the doors throughout the city, now you
Mm-hmm.
have a certain area, a certain district that you'll be campaigning within, and
Huh.
you won't have as much money. You won't have to spend as much money, and I think it'll be people will be more. They would know who their council member is more. They would have a person that they feel like they can really pick up the telephone and call.
Mm-hmm. So now the city will be in 6 districts, and how are they determining those districts?
Well,
How do they cut it up?
we've gone through a series of hearings
Okay.
over the last 3 months.
Mm.
And we have a map that's been approved, and some of it's along border major streets, like from
Okay.
Western Avenue to Crenshaw will be a district, from Lameda on the south end to 190th, 182nd Street on the north, and then
Mm.
Hawthorne, and then up in the hillside area, the
Okay.
west. So it's been divided like that.
Okay. That's interesting. So are there other cities around this area that already do this, or is this a
There,
brand new thing?
no, there are, and just so you know, this is something that we didn't decide that would be a good thing for us to do. There
Mm.
was a lawsuit
Oh.
based on a California law that had been passed in the year 2000,
Mm.
called California Voting Rights Act. And the purpose of that act, of course, is to make the cities more representative of the community, uh,
Mm.
and to and to help the council to be more of a diverse body.
Oh, okay. So like racially, you mean? Like they want to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure all.
right, yes, as much as yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
okay. That seems a little strange though, because Torrance is pretty diverse in all the areas. So I don't know. I don't know if that'll work the way they want, but okay. Okay, so now
Well,
we're gonna have 6.
yeah, it was something that I was opposed to, and
Mm,
I'm one of the council members who said, "Well, let's fight it in the
mm.
courts." Uh, However, a lot of cities that did fight it in the courts lost, and it cost millions of dollars for the
Oh
city.
wow.
Um,
Yeah, so it was a toss-up between, do you gamble the city's money and try and fight it? Is that what it is?
right, right,
Or the
right.
feeling that people had? Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay, so so right now you serve all people. That was the original question. So right now you're at large. You serve anyone who has a question can contact any council person and ask questions.
Absolutely.
And in the future, I'm going to assume that each council person will focus on their little subdivision or
District, that I call, yeah, starting in should I run or when I run in 2020, then
Yeah.
I'll be running for actually my district. I think is going to be the 2nd district,
Okay.
and so and that area has been determined already, and
So do you think, because you're a council person now, so do you think, and this is projection because you're not living it yet, do you think this will make it easier to be a council person, or do you think it'll be more difficult?
it really depends.
Mm,
It financially speaking, it'll be less expensive
okay.
having to campaign for a district or do a mail out for a district.
Mm-hmm. And signage probably too, right? All the material that you use, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So running will be cheaper, maybe
yes,
easier, less square miles to trot, right? So, okay.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
right,
There goes
right.
the diet, okay.
Yeah.
And so what can you guess might be more difficult, do you think?
Well, again, having the representation is for racially diverse council district will be a challenge.
Hmm, that's too bad. Hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it might turn out to be okay.
it might.
So, okay, and I think our neighboring city, is it Redondo Beach, I think, has districts, right?
They do. Redondo Beach has
So
districts.
if people want to find out how those people feel about their districts or how it's working for them, they could reach out to a council person over there and see what
Redondo Beach, Long Beach,
Long Beach does. Okay.
of course, Los Angeles
Yeah.
uh, council districts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can understand Los Angeles though, because it is super, super spread out. Torrance
Yeah.
is not as spread out, right? Okay, so so can you give us an idea of it? I don't know if you have a typical day or what types of things do you do in your day as a council person? Is there a typical day even, do you think?
No, and that's one of the things that I love about the about being on the
Okay.
council. It's not a typical day.
Mm.
Today we had a graduation ceremony for Schweitzer Learning Center
Oh yeah.
with Dr. Fu, Rebecca, and
Mm-hmm.
her group. And so we were there as a part of that graduation ceremony
Wow.
with her today. Tomorrow we'll be with the annual arts festival
Mm-hmm.
in the cultural arts complex in Torrance for our civic center, and that'll be an all day thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have so every day there's something new,
That's neat.
but as it relates to our Tuesday night council meeting,
Yes.
we have to have our agenda 72 hours in advance,
Uh-huh.
and we can have anywhere from 10 to 20, 25 items on the agenda, and
That's
so
intense. That sounds intense.
it is it's a lot of reading, and
Mm.
so generally we get it on Friday. So you read over it, and then so you have your weekend to read over the material. And
Mm.
then on Mondays, we're generally meeting with the staff. If we have something coming up in public works concerning the water, something in parks and recreation concerning the parks, then we're meeting with the staff. We have questions about those agenda items, and so that's generally all of Monday. And then
Mm.
Tuesday, we're in closed sessions. Sometimes we have closed sessions before the council meeting
Okay.
with our attorneys, some things that don't that's not public
Appropriate. Hmm.
appropriate. So we
Mm.
have closed session meetings on Tuesdays before the council meetings, and
Mm.
then you have your council meetings. And one of the things that I like least about being on the council is the
Yes.
late council meetings.
Yeah,
Sometimes we go on as late as 12, 1 o'clock. I think
that's
you've
what I've
been
heard.
there for some time when those council meetings have gotten kind of lengthy. But
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
then you might have a meeting the first thing Wednesday morning. Um,
Yeah. That makes it rough to get up in the morning.
it does, but hey,
Hmm.
that's why they pay us the big bucks.
Right. So yeah, so when you have issues come up, you can go to these department heads or people in certain departments and get more educated, because I just think that there's so much to learn and so much expertise that I think goes behind making good decisions on council, right? So you can't possibly know everything about everything. So do you go a lot to these departments and,
The
get educated in a fast track, or how do you do this?
the good thing about being on city council is
Yes.
that you don't have to go to the departments; they come to you.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a good thing. All you have to do is make a telephone call or send an email. Hey, I'd like to meet with you in my office, and they are just right there, Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
They're very, very, very accommodating. So that's the good. That's one of the good things being
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
council is that you don't have to go running around looking for them. They will come to you. But sure, and they are very amenable because they realize how important it is that you have all the information you need prior to the council meeting on Tuesdays. So we
Yeah,
have
and they know how to explain it to you in layman's terms so you understand. Because the
yeah,
engineers, I love these
yeah.
engineers, but they talk so true up,
Right.
so they and a lot of what goes on in the city has engineering basis to it, right? So they can boil it down for you in layman's term for you to understand, I guess, right?
You're absolutely right,
Yeah.
and they're very understanding. And because I would tell them, all right, okay, explain this to me, and so that a seventh grader could understand it. uh,
Right.
because I may
Right.
need to explain it to constituents.
Constituents, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. You have to be able to regurgitate it for them.
yes.
Yeah. So what is your favorite part of your job? What would you say is the best thing about being on council?
The best thing about being on council for me is when residents call or email me and say, "I have a problem. Can you help me?"
Mm.
And I talk with them, and I get as much information as I can, and I said, well, let me find out who is the person over this, responsible for this. Let's see if we can fix this for you, and then pass it off to a staff person, and then have that staff person get back to you. And it might be something that's I have a problem with the tree in my front yard. I see water leaking in the middle of the street, or my roads
Hmm.
are not repaired, or something like that. And then to be able to close that loop to their satisfaction, that to me is most rewarding.
Mm. Yeah. And I think too, the citizens are the eyes and the ears for the city, right? City staff can't be everywhere at all times. And they might be
Absolutely.
reluctant to call, but you guys actually appreciate them calling and pointing
Oh,
things out,
oh,
right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And so we already covered your least favorite part. So that was staying up late and talking about stuff ad nauseum about certain things. Okay, and what do you think your biggest impact has been? You're only 2 years into this, I think, right? But what do you feel has been your biggest impact on the city as a council person?
Well, one of the things that I've always wanted to, and I want to continue to do is to bring representative government to the council. And in other words, make the average citizen feel comfortable coming to city council or talking with a city council member about whatever problems that they are experiencing, and being transparent with what we're doing as a council. Sometimes it can seem like what we're doing, it's kind of confusing. It doesn't seem like it was done and what we call the open, so to speak. And people have questions about that. And so help them to see and to demonstrate to them that we are transparent, that this is your city government. You're paying us, you're paying the department heads. We're all working for you. And then just bring us a sense of civility with the other council members. Sometimes, well, a lot of times we disagree,
Right.
but to help them see that we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah.
Is something else that I'd like to bring to the table.
Yeah. Well, you all come, any group of people, not just our current council, but any group of people comes from all walks of life and backgrounds. So of course, you're going to be having different opinions. And I kind of feel, and this is just my personal, I kind of feel that if people don't disagree, then there's probably a problem. If you're all going in the same direction.
Yeah, everybody agreeing. Yeah, that would be right. Yes.
Yeah. So, one of the questions that's important to the League of Women Voters is voter engagement, and it seems like it's very low, right? It seems that this last election, it looked to me like about 16,000 people voted, and that was my guess based on the tally of the votes that I saw. And that seems kind of low for 175,000 people. Now, some are children, some are probably not eligible, but even if you take 50% out, that's still a low number, right?
It actually was a little higher. It was more with all of the provision of ballots being counted. It was closer. It was closer to 25,000.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's good news then.
However, that is still low in and of itself. And that's something that we work with, not only just local city, but throughout the state and throughout our nation, about how do you get over voter apathy. And that's a challenge, I think, for all of us. One of the things that I think that we must continue to do is to engage the community, find out what's important to them, put your finger on the pulse. Sometimes we as and I'll say as politicians, we think that we know what's best for Joe Q, the average voter, as opposed to us listening to them, finding out what's important to them, and then making it real convenient for them to be able to vote. We need to do more online voting, more
like lower the barrier, the accessibility.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be nice if people, because I don't think people realize how many important decisions are being made by council and the mayor and, their electeds, right? I mean, I really don't think they do understand. So, are you as a council person supposed to be reaching out, or do you think that's more maybe the city clerk's office duty to get the word out about voting?
I think it's all of ours. I think it's all of our responsibility, really. I don't think it's any one person. Excuse me.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's any one person's responsibility. I think that as a community, we must find ways to engage and get more involved. And there was we had a council last Tuesday, and there was a young man. I would guess he's in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, and he was very concerned about the going from the at large to the vote by district. So for the past 2-3 months, since we've been dealing with this issues, he's been there almost every council meeting, and I was saying to him, I hope you continue to come to the council meetings, and I hope you continue to engage your own local community to get more involved, because we need you, we need to hear from you, and we need your involvement. And we need more the young people involved. We do have what we call a youth commission.
Oh, okay.
Comprised of high school students from throughout the city of Torrance, and I try to go to those meetings of the youth commission and encourage them to stay involved even beyond their time in high school, where they're going to college or whatever they're doing, to stay engaged.
Right. Well, see, right there, that's fabulous, right? At least there's a connection, and they have a voice that the city council can hear directly, as opposed to going to every high school and asking, right? That's helpful to you, I would think.
It is. It is, very much so.
Okay, good. Well, you know, time flies by in these interviews. We're already wrapping it up. So is there anything else you want to share with the people out there about being on council, or anything coming up in the city Torrance that you're excited about? Just anything, last words that you'd like to share.
I would encourage people to become involved, to apply for a commission. We have, again, about 12 or 13 different commissions. We have one commission called the Social Service Commission that focus on people with Alzheimer's, developmental issues, and homelessness, and veterans. There's the Cultural Arts Commission, Library Commission, Parks and Recs Commission. There's just a number of different commissions. So I would encourage people to get involved. And the second thing is that I would encourage our people is to resist what I'm feeling is happening across the nation, is that we're becoming, as a nation, more divisive along certain issues. And there's a lot of talk about conservatives versus liberals, liberals versus conservatives. I would hope that we would move away from those labels and those terms that divide us, and look what unites us as a people, and look at the common challenges that we face, and let's pool our resources, our brain power, and to find solutions to problems that's facing us, rather than getting separated and divided into different camps. And I'm against you because of this label, you against me because of that label. That's something that I would like to see us do as a people.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a wonderful chat, and hopefully people got a good sense of what it is to be a council person in a small to medium-sized city, and to not hope for pay. That's about it. Well, thanks for joining me, Colonel, Dr., Reverend, Councilperson Herring.
Just an humble servant, serving the people. Thank you, Athena.
Oh, you're so welcome. So to find out about our next talks on Facebook Live, we encourage you to join us by texting 444-999 and enter LWVTA in the message, and you'll be automatically added to our list, so you'll be advised of any upcoming interviews. And there are some exciting ones coming up, so please join us in the future. And if you missed any of our past ones, the past interviews, you can go right below our faces there and scroll down, and you'll see the previous ones. So thanks for joining us for Learn with the League. This is Athena signing off. Bye, Milton.
Bye-bye.